How are we all doing, everyone? Ooh, it's getting to be a bit of a squeeze in the fish room now. The fish garage is going to be so much better. But I have just got word that a local fish shop to me are getting in a species of frog that I've wanted to keep for ages. So we need to get on and set up a new aquarium for them because I don't want to miss the opportunity to have them. Also, a new filter with biodegradable cartridges. That's definitely a new one on me. Now, as I say, I am running out of space in the fish room. We have got 5 aquariums set up in here, and also the little bowl on this shelving unit. And actually, I normally have a quarantine tank set up as well. So it is getting fairly full. But I think this aquarium here, that I've had for a while, will hopefully fit on this bottom shelf. Oh, like a glove. I think I'm going to have to aquascape it outside of that shelving unit because there's no way I'm getting any decent amount of wood or rock in over that gap. Now I think this little aquarium is going to be perfect for a group of these little frogs, and yeah, we're going to go with the Aquasmart LED light unit because I've been using them on my minnow tank and also the new jungle swamp paludarium tank that I've got downstairs, and they have done really well. So I'm going to be using that light unit, and also I was excited to have a play with this. Now I have never ever heard of a biodegradable cartridge filter. So the cartridges that are inside this new Interpet filter are biodegradable. So really interested to try this because this could change the fish keeping game. Now for these little frogs we are going to need a heater as well, but I seem to have misplaced mine. No, I haven't. I knew I put it somewhere up here. Right, so that is all the equipment we are going to need. Put it on the wrong side of the fish room. I normally put all my stuff this side. I don't normally put it that side, but anyway. So we are going to scape this tank for these little African dwarf frogs. Now they are super cute, super cool, probably about the size of a 50p piece, which is what, 1.5 inches, and I have always wanted to keep them. They have been a species that have just fascinated me for so long. Now from what I have read online, please don't drop anything. From what I have read online, they inhabit foresty areas. So I'm thinking like forest streams, leaf litter, maybe a few aquatic plants, but nothing too major. And that's what I want to try and recreate in this tank. Some sort of, I don't know, tangle of roots that they can climb up on. They don't need to get out of the water, but they do need to get up to the surface to be able to breathe. So yeah, I think some wood and some tree roots coming down into the water where they can sort of anchor themselves and hold themselves up on if they want to is going to be perfect for them. Now I'm not even sure if I'm going to use this amount or any of these pieces because I did buy a brand new piece for another project, and I'll be totally honest, I tried it in this tank and it fits an absolute dream, but it's pretty much like one piece of wood, scape finish. Let me grab it and show you. So this is the piece of wood in question. Now I actually picked this bit up because I've got a future project coming up, probably the week after this one actually, when it'll be finished. And I wanted more branches for it. And I saw this piece and I'm like, oh yeah, look at all those branches. I can just cut off all those branches. And I was going to butcher this piece. And then yesterday I threw it in this tank and, well, let me show you. Okay, let's clear some of this stuff out of the way so you can actually see what I'm doing. Which way around was it? Like that. Ta-da! Scape finished. Fill it with water, bit of sand in the bottom, we're done. No, not at all. So I want some more rocks in there. I want to create some caves for them, maybe lift it up a little bit, but that provides so much intricate sort of space for them to climb and move around on. I think it's done. Now I do need to make sure this bit of wood and the rocks that I use leave enough clearance for all the filtration, the heaters and everything like that. Also, how cool is that rock? It's just stuck in amongst all the wood. Like the root has grown around it at some point and it's brought it with it. So I think I'm gonna have to go for grey rock so it blends in with that one there, because otherwise that'll annoy me. Actually, I tell you what, this tank is quite well illuminated where it is, but let's get this light unit on there because then we'll be able to see what we're doing and see what the final effect will actually look like, rather than it being a bit dim. One of the main reasons I like these lights is for the satisfying cling film pull off the front of the light. Now I might end up mounting this light because you can, there's little screw holes, I don't know if you can see, yeah, you can see that. There's little screw holes in either end, and I'm thinking I could actually mount that light up underneath the metal shelf, essentially. I wouldn't be able to obviously screw it through the metal shelf because it would go into the bottom of my bowl. But if I get a little bit of wood and get a little bit of wood glued underneath the metal shelf, I could then screw this to it. But for the minute, all I'm going to do is extend the legs a little bit and then mount it that way round, because then the cable's at the correct end, and have it mounted like that over the tank. I think, like I say, eventually I might mount it up, but that'll work for the minute. Now, when you first plug these light units in, hopefully I can plug it in there for the minute. Switch that one on. What was I saying? Oh yeah, when you plug these light units in for the first time, they actually don't turn on full power, essentially, because, well, that would startle the fish, and you do have to link them to the app to then program how bright you want them to be. Ta-da! That one's now connected, and we can mess around with the master switch. If we turn all of these on, and then we can mess around. Oh, went back. Mess around with the lighting. It's freaking out now because I'm pressing all the buttons. We don't want very much blue. We want a bit of red. Probably a bit of white. Yeah, that looks good, doesn't it? Now, irritatingly, I just went to my cupboard where I thought I had a load of rocks, and I don't. Luckily, I've got a few, but they were soaking outside, trying to clean them off. So they're a bit damp, and they've got a bit of algae to them. But that just lends into the natural sort of theme of this aquarium, and the frogs aren't going in here for a week or so anyway. So, yeah, let's try some of these rocks. It's just a bit of Seiryu stone, but I think it's going to work. This root here pretty much sits perfectly around that rock, like it's grown there at some point. And that, I think that's a really cool overhang for them. They can all tuck themselves in under. Maybe another little rock here if I can get one. Maybe one in underneath here. But I want to keep it simple because I want to be able to see these little guys, but I do want to give them enough hiding spaces to feel happy. Yeah, I'm happy with that. So we've got this big overhang that the frogs can go in under, because they do like caves and sort of hiding themselves away. We've got all these roots that they can get in under there and sort of hide themselves away, and then they can climb up on all these roots and get towards the surface, so they don't have to sort of fully pelt and swim up to the surface really quickly. They can have a rest up on these branches if they want to. I think that's gonna look and work really well. Just a little fine layer of grey sand. Maybe build the sand up in that corner a little bit more for a plant. That could look quite cool. Just actually had a thought with this planting pocket. If I use that rock and wedge that sort of back in under there, that'll allow me to bank the sand up in that corner, because otherwise it's just going to pull down into their cave, and they're not going to have their cave, which they won't be happy about. Now that's the initial scape done. The sand's a little bit messy because unfortunately it got damp, and damp sand is always a bit of a nightmare because it just sticks to everything. But once we get the water in there, that'll all level out absolutely fine, no problems at all. But I think that's enough sand. I just want a fine layer. But next up, we do want to open and get this new biodegradable cartridge filter on there, the BioCF1. This one does up to 68 litres, so perfect for this aquarium. But first, I need to go and attend a meeting from YouTube about a creator community thing that's going on. So big thank you to YouTube for inviting me to this creator community event learning session thing. It's going to be really cool, but it has interrupted my scape, which is a little bit irritating. So if you see the lights change and it looks a little bit dimmer or darker, it's because it's much, much later and I have been sat in a meeting on Zoom for the last hour. So I'll bring you back in a minute when we find out what all of this biodegradable coconut husk aquatic thing filter is all about. Right, so that was a really good session. Now, where were we before I went and done that? We were talking about the filter. So, yeah, we are going to look at what makes these new aquatic filter sponges. Well, they're not sponges, are they? Because they're a biodegradable filter media, which is very cool. So, well, best things to get this out of the box and have a look at it. Right, so let's just move that over there. Now, ever since I heard that this Koya Tech thing was going to be coming out, I was intrigued by it because, as you can see on here, it is made from coconut husk and it is completely biodegradable and 100% plastic free. So a plastic free media in a filter is really quite clever, to be honest, and quite interesting. Now, the Koya that they're making it from, so the coconut husk they're making it from, is supposedly a waste product. So how cool is that? You're taking something that would not be used in normal circumstances and turning it into something that's, well, hopefully going to make our aquarium hobby a little bit greener. Now, these filters do come with their normal biomedia that they've got. Obviously, I've got one of these running in the Minnow aquarium at this precise moment, and you can, if you've got a CF filter, you can upgrade it to the Koya Tech technology, Koya Tech cartridges, because they are all the same size and fit into the same casing. So yeah, really quite clever. I've also just seen as well, it comes with these clean aquarium pods, which is another new thing on me. So we'll be checking them out as well. So let's get this filter out. Now obviously I am fairly up to date. Oh, look at that, there you go, aquarium pods. They're quite shiny in the light, but yeah, we'll have a look at them in a bit. Now I have used these filters before, so it is something I am fairly used to. We'll have a look at the instructions in a minute, but I'm not sure if there's anything else different in there. So we've got our clip to go on the back that will hang the filter from the aquarium side. So we'll use that one or the suction cups in a minute. But this is what we are interested in, is these essentially filter pads. So from reading the box and looking at the instructions, there are two different cartridges here. Now the smaller one that you can see on here is what they're calling a mechanical cartridge. So this one just literally catches all your fine debris and muck and everything like that. It's quite an interesting makeup, to be honest. Now they are glued together with 100% natural latex. So yeah, they won't start falling apart straight away, but as with any sponge, you are going to have to replace it periodically to get the best out of your filter. Now the other sponge or cartridge that they've got in there is this slightly bigger one, and you can sort of see that it's got a bit of a denser sort of makeup to it, I guess, and this one is impregnated with carbon. So if I can get it out, not very easy, but yeah, this one's got a carbon layer in it, so that this will help with smells, colorations, you know, staining in the water, all of that sort of thing, and just help to keep your aquarium clean. So yeah, this is a really interesting idea and something that's quite revolutionary in the aquarium world. I've completely forgotten how these went in. Bigger one, no, biomedia at the back, wasn't it? So yeah, you've got a biomedia cartridge on the back of there as well, so you've still got all the space for all your good bacteria to live. You've got that one that's going to collect some of the particles and the muck. Did that go in right? Yeah, that's in, and then that one slots in the front somewhere. Perfect. As simple as that. I also like about this filter is it's got a grill, so it is like a hang-on waterfall filter, but it stops any fish from getting in there, and these frogs probably would go and sit in this filter if they could, so I think that grill is going to come in handy. Right, so let's see how we're going to fit this into this aquarium. Let's get that, pop that over there. We might need them in a minute, depending on how we're fitting. Well, no, we will need one of them. It's quite heavy with those rocks in. Right, now I'm thinking it's going to go somewhere behind here. Somewhere behind that wood anyway. Right, so what I'm actually going to do is pop this in with the suction cups already attached to the back, because I'm thinking it should just fit behind my piece of wood there. Oh, pushed a bit too hard. Ah, perfect fit. That little twig might need to be cut off, but that's fine. So with the filter located back there, the last thing we need to do is just get a little heater in there. These frogs do like it warm, they don't like it cold, so a heater is just going to keep that temperature at the perfect level for them. Right, so let's lift this tank into position and see what room we're working. Oh no, I've taken the polystyrene with me. I've already got black polystyrene down there. I don't need the white sheet as well. Ah, perfect. Yeah, there's enough room to get in, enough room to feed, enough room to get the filter out. That's going to be ideal. Now, because the sand was a little bit clumpy when I put it in, I'm going to have to put some water in there because, well, if I plant any plants into this, because there's so many air pockets and because there's so much sand up on the hardscape and stuff, it's all just going to run down and then, well, cause a bit of problems with the planting. So I'm hoping that if I just use my watering can and wash the sand off of all the different locations, hopefully the sand will find its final resting place and home, and then I can plant into it properly. Now that actually looks like it's going to be very, very dusty when I've fully filled it up. So yeah, I think I might use this bucket to stir up the water and then we'll drain that out and we'll put some fresh in. I even washed that sand before. Honestly, some sands are so dusty. Now we've given that tank a couple of rinses through, I think we should be good. We're obviously not going to put the frogs in there today and we're going to let it clear and settle. And I can always do a few water changes over the week or two that I'm letting it settle. So, next up, we have got some planting to do. So we have got some really nice Echinodorus Martii, which are like these long-leafed versions. Now I'm thinking maybe one or two in that corner. And I might be really odd and put one right in this front corner so it gives them some real good hiding places. Essentially, I want these frogs to be happy. I want them to have enough hiding spaces, but I also want them to have some open areas where they feel safe and secure and they can still come out and see me. Now, as always, we do need to prep the plants. Oh, I shouldn't really do that straight onto there. I've got a little bucket of water there. So we do need to get rid of all this rock wool and all of the pot and essentially get these plants prepped, ready to go in the water. So we have got a lovely group of Amazon swords now. Yeah, they actually broke up into a lot of babies. It actually looks like baby spinach, doesn't it, at the moment? I wouldn't recommend eating it, though. It's probably not good for you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 plants out of 3 pots. Not bad going. Now I am going to pop some fertiliser tablets in at the roots of where these plants are going. I'm not sure we're going to need all 11 plants, but this corner and that corner I think is where the main bulk of them is going to go. So that's the planting done. I think I'm going to keep it super simple. Just that Echinodorus Martii straight across the bottom. They get quite long, like sort of elongated leaves. So once they reach the surface, they'll be perfect. I might pop a few floating plants in on top because the roots will just sort of, I don't know, hide that gap, I suppose, because the plants are here at the moment. The roots dangling down will sort of meet, and we'll have some cover for them in the upper reaches and the bottom reaches whilst those Echinodorus grow up. Now next up we need to get this filled, so I think it's still going to be quite murky. That sand does seem dusty, but at least that's going to test this new aquatic filter and see how good they are at picking up particles over the next few days. So we are now full, but I've just realised that where I had the rocks stored in a bucket of water outside cleaning them off, we have some bloodworm or mosquito larvae already living in here. So hopefully they don't hatch before the frogs get in here, because the frogs will absolutely devour that, but I don't really want it to hatch in the fish room. There's another weird looking one back there, look. Oh my word. Yeah, they'll be all right, won't they? They won't hatch in the week that it takes to get a frog in here, will they? That's a worry. So the next step is to get that filter turned on. So if I plug that in there and press that button, absolutely ideal. Perfect. Now I have also plugged the heater in as well. I was trying to give you a look of like, yeah, those aquatic sponges. I tell you what, actually, in a minute we could put new aquatic sponges in the minnow tank. Excuse the mess, because yeah, we've got the same filter running on here, and I've got some of the aquatic sponges, so we can strip this one out of the normal sponges and put aquatic in there. That'll be quite an interesting look, and then I can actually see this filter a little bit better. Now, whilst I remember, because I forgot last time, we are going to add some tap water safe to get rid of all those heavy metals, chlorines and chloramines, and also a little bit of filter starter to get that good bacteria running around in there. Now these little frogs in the wild can be found in little streams and creeks, little ponds, all sorts of different locations like that. But a lot of the time you do find them on muddy bottoms with muddy bottom. Ah, you child. A lot of the time you can find them on muddy bottoms with leaf litter, essentially. So I've lost my train of thought. So I'm planning on adding some leaf litter to the aquarium just because they're that like tanny sort of browny sort of colour, and they do like blending in with the leaf litter. Now I have got some guava leaves up here. I've had a look around and I can't find any more. I should really keep all my botanicals in one area. It would make a lot more sense. But I should have a lot more leaves and maybe even some other things downstairs that we can boil up and then get into this aquarium. Right, so in the botanicals drawer, see, most of my botanicals are in one area. Those are the little pods I used in the better tank. I'm not really bothered about them. That's an empty bag. Catappa leaves, they're quite chunky. I'm not feeling that. These teak leaves I got, and I bought them ages ago. Look how big they are. I might just crumble up a load of them into sort of bite-sized pieces and use that in there, because I don't think I'm ever going to use those massive leaves in an aquarium. I think they just look ridiculous unless you've got a big tank. What else have we got? Lotus pods, don't really want to use them. A fake jellyfish, another fake jellyfish. Yeah, no, I think we're good. I think we'll just use a few leaves broken up. I think that'll be ideal. So we have got our boiled bucket of leaves, so that's just going to get rid of that first load of tannins and colorants, and it's also going to sort of get rid of any funguses or anything that might have been living on them, as they are a natural product. So I am pretty much just going to let these fall wherever they pretty much want to. They'll sort themselves out over the course of the week while we're letting this tank sort of settle, and then we should be ready for a few frogs. Super looking forward to getting them up here because they are a species I've always wanted. So that is this tank finished for the minute, other than letting it settle, letting it mature, letting some of the wood and the leaves leach out some tannins, ready for these frogs to go in probably a week, maybe 10 days time, something along those lines. That's it. We've just got to let it settle. It'll be interesting to see how those new aquatic filter pads do over this next week and how much muck they collect, because there won't be too much muck in there, but there'll definitely be a little bit from the leaves and the plants and things like that. Now, one thing I haven't done yet is use the clean aquarium pods that come with the filter. Now, you do get 2 with the filter. I did pick up an extra packet just to see what, where, how, who and when, to be honest, what they're all about. Now, they do activate your filter, they do feed the aquatic plants, they eat sludge, they reduce aquarium maintenance. So it's an interesting thing to trial out and test in my aquariums, to be honest. They're quite a funky new idea that should help people with the maintenance levels on their aquarium. Now, I actually haven't cleaned the filters in this filter for a little while, to be honest, in anticipation of these new filter pads coming out. So let's remove some of these. Oh, I should turn this off first, really. I was guessing at the plug then, and I got it right. So let's take these out, pop them in my little jug. It's not really a big enough jug, but it does the job. And that one. Right, and then let's replace them with these new Koyatech ones. So what we need to do is take the old Algaway sponge out of its holder, and then slot this new Koyatech sponge into the holder. That will then slot in front of the filter, and then we've got that little one that should fit snugly between the other 2 in the back of the filter. And then all we need to do to get this reintroduced is pop that one there. That's the biomedia one, so that one goes in that slot there, and then this little sponge just snugly squidges in between those. Perfect. And then we can just turn that back on and we're ready to go. Now, we have got a little bit of waste sitting in the bottom of the aquarium, and that's mostly down to the ram's horn snails eating the biofilm that's growing on the wood here. So I'm actually going to chuck one of the aquarium pods, because each one treats 50 litres. I'm going to chuck one in the filter in here and see how it does. Now, they do say to add these pods to an area of high flow, so in the back of this filter should be perfect. And the film will dissolve, releasing all that good bacteria and all those good things into the aquarium. So that is everything done in the fish room for today. We've upgraded the minnow tank to the new Koyatech filter sponges. We've set this one up and got it ready and running and essentially waiting for the frogs to go in. Yeah, that's it. So I'll bring you guys and girls back in about a week, maybe 10 days, maybe 2 weeks by the time I get round to it. But then we'll be getting the frogs to get them introduced into here and see how they get on. We are back. Now, the tank has had over 10 days to settle and to clear, and everything is doing really, really well. Now, I had to pick up the frogs before this tank was ready, actually. So they are actually in quarantine, behind camera now, ready to go in here. Really? Well, let me show you what's changed in the week, and we can get these little guys introduced. So as you may have noticed, we have added some Amazon frog bit with their roots trailing down into the water there. These are just going to grow really well and help us with that void at the moment. Before the Echinodorus grow up and they get to the surface, these roots will just help us sort of hide the area, the void that the frogs will want to swim through. We have had a little bit of fungus growing on the wood, but nothing major. As you can see, it's still got the same coloration and getting darker and darker, which means it is taking on water. So I'm not overly worried about that little bit of fungus. I'll just keep an eye on it to make sure it doesn't go crazy. But yeah, it is all looking good. Plants have settled in, leaf litters down there, and the filter has done really well. Now on this tank, it's obviously quite tricky to show you. But it is still flowing really well. The filter sponges are doing an amazing job of picking up all those fine particles from the from the sand and from the leaf litter. They have kept this water crystal clear. Actually, I can show you in the minnow tank, can't I? Now the lights are just coming on in the minnow tank, so it's a little bit dark in here at the moment. But those filter pads have done so well. They almost like swell up a little bit in the water. and then they sort of create an even finer filter gauze. So you can see it's not overflowing over this filter. So this has just been running now about 10 days. So they've not blocked up yet, because otherwise the water would be running over the top of this filter, but they've definitely caught a lot of muck that obviously the old filters were. But the bonus with these is the Aquatic, the coconut husk that this is made of, is biodegradable. So we can just take them out, compost them, put another couple in there, and away you go. No plastic, no mess. Well, there will be a little bit of a mess because there's fish poo in there, but at least there's no plastic really to go into landfill. Now, I did use the aquarium pods in both this tank. Sorry for the reflection. You can see the barb tank better than you can see this tank because these lights aren't fully on yet. They're on the timer, so they're just starting to wake up now. But yeah, I did use the pods in here. And yeah, I think it's working quite well. You know, it is very crystal clear, very happy, everything's looking good. And I obviously did use them in the frog tank as well. And, you know, that is looking, well, just look at that. There's hardly any tannins in there as well. I thought this wood might release a little bit of tannins, but not at all. Like, you can see the white background or the white wall behind there. And yeah, it looks really good. Now, I sat down and done a full test on this tank late last night, and everything was looking spot on. pHs, ammonias, nitrites, nitrates, everything is spot on. So we are ready to get the frogs in there. Now, we have gone for a little group of them because these frogs do like being in groups, but I'm going to get them out of their quarantine tank. You'll see a sneak peek of them while I'm acclimatizing, and then we'll put them in. And then I want to get them some food as well. I want to get them some bloodworm, and they're just so cute. I can't wait. And here they are. Now, they are such cool little cute things. Now, you might be able to see on camera, we have got a group of 5 in here. Can you see him? There is a different coloured one. And essentially the shop had one platinum one left. And I couldn't leave him on his own because they are a grouping animal. They like being in little groups. And I felt really bad if I was just going to leave that one platinum one on his own. So we got 1 platinum and 4 common coloured dwarf African frogs. Now, because these have been quarantined in the fish room, they're actually running at the same temperature as this tank. So there's no real issues with temperature. The only thing is the quarantine tank doesn't really have many botanicals in it, whereas this one has quite a lot. And it has that wood, which possibly has affected the hardness and the pH and possibly affected a few of the parameters. So we're going to give them a little acclimatization, probably maybe half an hour, 45 minutes, pop a bit of their water into their jug, keep replacing it, and then literally we should be done and we should be able to get them in. Right, we are ready to introduce these frogs. They've probably had about 30 to 45 minutes popping a bit of their water, a bit of their tank water into the jug. I've emptied the jug a couple of times and yeah, I think we are ready to go. That water in there is pretty much all new tank water now. Now, to give them a gentle introduction into their new aquarium, I'm just going to log into the app and turn down the lights. Is that going to show on camera a little bit? Yeah, I think you can tell, can't you? Oh, that is all red. I turned all the white off. Hang on. Let's turn a bit of the white back on so we can see what we're doing. Perfect. Let's get these little guys and girls introduced. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to strain those little guys through a net. Don't know how she felt about it, but we should be able to get them in much easier than in a jug. Oh, my word. They're so cool. Oh, look at you sat in the plant. We'll give them a few hours to settle down and then we'll bring them up some food. They've been eating just about anything I've thrown at them, but they seem to like the bloodworms and the daphnia the most, so maybe we'll defrost some frozen food for them. I am so happy to have these little guys and girls living in the fish room. I suppose I can't really call it a fish room anymore, can I? We've now got shrimps, we've now got frogs. It's sort of an animal room, I suppose is the easiest way to describe it. That's what I probably need to call the garage, the animal garage. But I've given them a few hours to settle down. They are out and about, they are exploring the caves, they are in and out of the leaf litter. Yeah, they are doing so well. I am really happy with how this filter has got on as well. These new Aquatic sponges seem to be doing an absolutely amazing job at keeping the water clean. And that whole biodegradable thing, it's just gonna be a big game changer in the industry. If we can recycle and compost filter cartridges, oh man, that is just such a good thing. Now, one little word of warning for anyone looking at keeping dwarf African frogs at home is that they can sometimes be confused with a species called Xenopus. I'm sure it's Xenopus with an X. Now, I've never kept the Xenopus version, but I have seen them, and they get much bigger. Like, I'm talking big. Whereas obviously these guys stay small, and if you keep them with the right things, you can mix them in with fish and things like that quite happily. Whereas the Xenopus, you will not be able to mix them with anything. The way to tell them apart: dwarf African frogs will have webbed feet, front and back, so their front feet will have webbing between them. Whereas a Xenopus toad, I'm pretty sure they're a toad, I don't think they're a frog, but anyway, the big ones, they will have fingers, essentially, so they will be able to move independently and there won't be webbing between them. So check when you're buying your dwarf African frogs to make sure you are getting the right species and you're not going to end up with some big monster. Still very cool, awesome animal, but a very different setup is needed. There is one slightly smaller frog that I've realised in here now who maybe wasn't getting as much food as the others. He's a little bit skinnier, but that, to be fair, might just be males and females. I expect that females probably do get a bit chunkier than males, so it might just be that we're looking at. But I'll keep an eye on him. Obviously, we've given them a bit of food and they are chowing down on that. I've seen all of them come out now and have a little bit of bloodworm, so I'm happy that they've settled in. I'm happy that they're eating something. I hope you've enjoyed this one. Make sure you follow along on my socials to keep up to date with how these little guys and girls are doing. And there are some big projects coming up alongside the big fish garage, which is in the building phase. So watch out for those videos coming in the near future. I'll see you in the next one.